Hi guys, this is your instructor Ashish Pagare for the Java CSC 1613 class. I am recording this video to give you some help with the programming assignment for this week. Before we see the details, I would like to just change my interface to make it look like as a student interface so that whatever you see here on my monitor will be exactly same as what you would see on your desktop. Before we go forward, let's take a quick look. If you ever need to reach me, I have my phone number on the home page of our course 901-335-3609. You can reach me and I will get back to you soon if I am not available. This is my physical phone. This is not a Google cell or anything like that, and I do check text messages, and I also reply to phone calls. um, in order to get to the current week, let us go to the modules on the left. So let me click on it and you may see the information for the previous weeks lined up. You can click on the names to close them. If you have done everything for the previous week, you may want to close as I am doing, so that we can see what is important or expected from you for the current week. And here we are. Here is week 5, and we have the week 5 snapshot as a page. We have chapter study as a PowerPoint symbolized with a cloud symbol and arrow. We have assignments aid. There are videos provided by our textbook publisher, which I post for you to see. These videos will be here, and I just open them in a new tab simultaneously so you can see them as you see here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos provided by the company, and you can use any of those or all of those to prepare for the project that we have to do this week. If we close it for a second and click on the chapter 2 assignments, we will see that you need to do exercise 2.17, 2.18 and 2.27 on from page number 65 and 66 of the textbook. To get the details for these assignments, I have the ebook open right here, and question number 2.17 and 2.18 are partially shown here on my monitor. These are two questions from the textbook. This is the e-textbook for Java, How to Program Early Objects 10th edition ebook. Let us see 2.17, 2.18 and 2.27, which is on the next page. So let us go down and see 2.27. Here we have write an application that displays a checkerboard pattern as follows. That's all you need to do. Display a checkerboard pattern as you see here. The number of stars or asterisks we have are 3, 6 and 8, and 3, 6 and 8. 8 asterisks for how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 by 8 checkerboard matrix is what we need to display. Let us do this project together. I am going to my desktop to show you the Eclipse link that I have right here. I can double click on it and let the Eclipse open up. I have the Eclipse desktop on my shortcut on my desktop. I'm sorry. If you have installed Eclipse on a different location, you can go to your C drive and try to find where the Eclipse exists. You may open it and click on the eclipse.exe. Sometime you don't see the exe, but you will see this symbol, and the application will be the text inside the type column. When you double click, you will see that the Eclipse open up. If you haven't created a workspace, you may be asked to specify a workspace, which is the parent folder where all the projects will go automatically. In order to not use this workspace Every time you may leave this mark unchecked. Rather than checking it, leave it unchecked so that you will be prompted to specify a workspace. Let me do so and press the OK button. We are waiting for Eclipse to load, but in the interim, we are going to just read the question number 2.27 one more time. Write an application that displays a checkerboard pattern as follows. 8 by 8 checkered board pattern is what we want. Eclipse does tend to take a little bit longer than your usual software for it to show up. So have patience. Please do not think Eclipse is not responding. It is working in loading the application. Once it is up, we can make a project or a program to do the work. Let us close anything that you may have and we shall start the work again afresh. So I'm just deleting whatever I have got because I want to keep it in a way which will make you feel comfortable. There is lots of stuff that is floating around in my Eclipse interface, but don't ever be confused with what's going on in all these section, which is here or in the bottom or here or here. These are different sections of Eclipse which we may not need in our classroom projects, but as you are working in real life, you will benefit tremendously with these sections. To start the work, we will go to File, New, and Java Project. So nice and slowly, I am using my mouse to click on Java Project. When I do so, I'm asked to give a name to a project. I may say Chapter 2 project. You can give any meaningful English name that will help you remember it. I have the JRE automatically selected. You don't have to worry. If you have installed the JDK Java Development Kit, you will already see the JRE or Java Runtime Environment. Just simply press the next button and let's go forward. We have a detail about the source. This is how it's gonna come. Let's simply press the finish button and the project will be created in the left hand side. Now I see Chapter 2 project. Let's open it and we have a folder by the letters SRC, that stands for source or source code. The source, the code will be put inside this folder. To do so, let's right click and choose the option new, and we will say I would like to add a new class to my source because this project is currently empty. It has nothing in it. We'll create a new class, a Java class. Let's press enter and we are asked to give a name. We can say Chapter 2 assignment or something like that. You may instead use underscores to separate the parts. This makes it easy, but you can do everything in lowercase letter and it should be all fine. Usually when I'm typing the name of my project or my code class, I always use the initial letter as capital. This is called camel case. It makes it looks easy and to read the text. Chapter 2 assignment, camel case uses a first letter initial for every word. In the bottom, we must make sure we choose this option, select public static void main and some other text inside the parenthesis. If your interface looks like this, you may simply press finish button so that Eclipse can give us the initial code that will help us write our own code inside that. Here we have the simple little Eclipse interface which we can use to make our code. What Eclipse has provided us is called a skeleton. It has given us a class by the name Chapter 2 assignment.java. Inside our Chapter 2 project, this particular class has the same name as the name of the file, Chapter 2 assignment, and we have been given a empty public static void main, or generally speaking a main class, a main method. The main method allows us to write anything we want, and when we run this main method, this main function, starting from this parenthesis, open curly brace until the closing curly brace, whatever is typed inside these two lines will run. If you see this to do, you may erase it. There is no problem in doing so. As you are making the code, you may please click on the save button so that any changes you may do will be saved. Here is the floppy disk symbol with the text save all. Just simply press on it and continuously save your changes. Our objective is to display a checkerboard. In order to display something in Java, you shall know that we need to use the system.out.println method. So let me do that. We will say system.out.println. As I'm typing, I am being given help to fill up my content so that I don't end up making a spelling mistake. As soon as you type system.out.println, you will have the open and close parenthesis, and we have to put double quotes to enclose any string we would like to display. Every running line, every executable line in Java is terminated with a semicolon. So I have filled in. Now I just need to put a star, a space, a star, a space 8 times so that we have the checkered pattern as asked by the textbook. So we have 1 star, 2 star, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 separated by a space. Let's do system class dot out class dot println. Why are we using println? Because we would like to display these in the next line or individual line. So we are using println and filling up this semicolon in the end. We have 2 lines. We need to have 8 such lines. We can select the 2 lines we have done and use the edit and copy option to copy these, and putting the mouse in the next line, we can use edit and paste. We can do one more time and one more time. 8 such paste will give us 8 lines. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Every other line is alternative. We have line number 7. Alternate of line number is same as line 9 and 11 and 13. In this example, we are having this project written, this code written to make a checkered board that shall look like this. These star symbols is what we are after. Let us run our code. To do so, we will go to run menu option and run it. Because we are using system.out.println. Println is a method within the out class, which is part of the system class. We are displaying this information on the output. We are showing it to the customer, and therefore it should be displayed in the console section in the bottom. Let us run it and see what happens. We are using the run menu option and the first option to run the code. When we run it, we are asked to say save and launch. Select the resource to save and run it. Choose the selection for chapter 2 assignment.java and press OK button. It may seem very fast, but you will notice that we have 8 of those lines that we are written displayed down below. Using system.out.println and enclosing anything in the apostrophe or double quotes, we can, in the quotation marks or double quotes, we can display any text that we see desired. In this example, which was in this exercise, which was 2.27, we were asked to display 8 lines of alternating checkered symbol or asterisk, and we just accomplished that. I hope this assignment or this work we did was useful You may notice that we simply had to type these 8 lines of code to make the job happen. Everything else was provided to us and we simply did it. When it comes to time to submit your work, all I'm expecting is this small piece of code, and that's it. You may spot where this file is saved on your monitor, on your computer, by right clicking and looking for the properties. It should tell you the file is located in this folder, and this is the one single file you need to submit as part of the chapter 2 assignment for the exercise number 2.27. You have 2 more exercises to complete, 2.17 and 2.18. Let's take a look at those exercises. We'll go up and take a look at 2.17 and 2.18. For 2.18, write an application that displays a box, an oval, an arrow, and a diamond using stars as follows. I hope that what we have done here can help you do the same task for these different symbols. So I'm going to let the 2.18 be something that you can do it on your own. Let's read what we have for the next one. 2.17 is the assignment that is also part of this particular one. Write an application that inputs 3 integers from the user and displays the sum of those 3 integers, average, product, smallest and largest. Use the technique shown in figure 2.15. Note the calculation of the average in this exercise should result in an integer representation of the average. So if the number of the values is 7, the average should be 2, not 2.333. Alright, so if we need to do 2.17, we will get started with this project. To do this, we will again shift over to Eclipse, and if you are doing every exercise one after another, you may continue, or you may just simply leave one of them open, but close the file that you are running and start afresh by saying, I would like to create another project, and you may use File, New, and the option Java Project. You can say chapter 2 underscore exercise 17, which is 17, and you may give any name that you like, that you prefer. There is no hard and fast rule on naming a particular project and a particular class. So let me create it as follows. We will go to next, and leaving everything aside, we'll just simply go and click the finish button. We have our project created. Once again, it has nothing in it. We will go click on the source, right click on the source, and choose the option new class. We may say exercise 2_17, and we must use public static void main as checked before we press the finish button, because only those Java classes that have the main can be executed to check the outcome. So we must check this if we want to run our application, which is indeed the case. We do want to run our application. Let us press the finish button, and we have our code open up. We have the class, which is public class exercise 2_17. The name matches the name of the file. It has an open curly brace and a closing curly brace. Inside that, we have a public static void main, which is how we will call it. This is how the Java developers call it. This is one method. You can have many methods, but the level of programming we are doing does not require us to have many additional methods. We will simply fill in the details inside this particular public static void main and accept 3 inputs from the user. When you need to accept something from the user, you need to use what is called java.util.scanner class. This is a scanner utility provided by Java developers so that people who are working for FedEx and AutoZones and other employers do not have to do this. To use this particular utility called scanner provided by Java, we need to write a special kind of word, import, and it comes in purple color just like public class and public static void you see down below. We need to put a space and type java dot util dot scanner, and as you are typing you will see the help show up. As I finish it, I need to put a semicolon to say I am done with this typing. It is showing a yellow color that the import Java util scanner is never used. Well, it is just a matter of time before we start to use it, so don't worry if you get that particular message early on. I am going to go inside our public static void main and create an instance of the scanner class to say scanner my input, and we may use the I capital to say this is a name I am giving to use scanner, and when I'm creating, please give me a pointer, an ability to read from the system.in or console in. That means I have a link my input which will enable me to read from the system. Rather than displaying something to the system, it will enable me to read from the customer. We would like to read 3 sets of numbers, and for the 3 numbers we would like to calculate sum, average, product, smallest and largest. To read from the for 3 numbers, we must store those 3 numbers as well. Since they are integer, we will declare 3 variables with the type int. We will say number 1 semicolon int number 2, and putting no spaces we will say int number 3 with a space after int. And you may notice as I'm typing, I'm speaking as well, so it kind of helps you see that if there is a small mistake I do, then I start to see these red squiggly lines appear. If it all makes sense, helps you, you may squeeze the other sections. These are there, but they are not really required, so I'm just squeezing so that I don't change the interface from what you see on your monitor, but at least make it easy on your eyes to spot the information that is relevant. Now we need to declare other variables which we need. We need a largest to find the largest. We need a variable called smallest, so we can store the smallest value from the 3 numbers that our customer is going to fill in. We also need the sum. We need to calculate the sum. We also need to calculate their product. And finally, we need another variable to store the average. And here we have all the different variables we need are declared. It does not help. It does not help if you do not declare all the necessary variables. So it is important you think through all the different information that you need to get from the customer, namely the number 1, 2, 3, but also the information that you need to generate back to the customer, and we need to save it. So we have all these variables. Let us try to get the information from the customer. We will say system dot out dot print, and we are using the print class rather than println to say, hey customer, I'm displaying this line in a particular console window, and I will wait to receive your input. Until you enter the input, I am going to keep waiting for you. Println, the other format that we have used in the exercise 2.27, I suppose, or the third one we did 2.27. Indeed, we use println because we wanted to print something and enter, automatically move the mouse to the next line. In this case, we do not want the mouse to automatically move in the next line, but instead we would like to have the mouse blink right after this text appears, which is enclosed within quotation marks, enter first number, and we have a semicolon. In order to store the number that is entered by the customer, we will say I would like to get the next int from the customer and store it inside number 1. We will do the same thing for the other two integers that we need to get from the customer. We will say enter second number, and I am just having a single space after my colon symbol so that it looks nice and even to the customer as he or she is entering the numbers asked by our system. And we are utilizing the different options that are available by saying, oh, my input which is declared up above, I am using you to grab the number entered by the customer and expect it to be an integer. Thus we are saying next int. We will have one more final set of system.out.print, and we will say enter third number customer. We will finish every line by using the semicolon in the end. We are storing the third one inside the third number 3 variable that we have declared. And here we have, after the line 26 executes, we would have grabbed or got hold of all the 3 numbers that we wanted. Now we need to calculate the largest of the 3, so we will use the if logic. To determine the largest, we may start by having a comment to say following lines will find out the largest among the 3 numbers entered by the user. This is a comment I'm typing just to give you a point of view that we can type comments with 2 forward slashes. Anything after the 2 forward slashes is nothing but a comment. We may say, hey, largest, you are nothing but the number 1. Let's imagine that if number 1 is the largest, and we may say if in parenthesis, if we say number 2 is more than number 1, in that case we would like largest to become the number 2, which is to say, hey, if number 2 is more than number 1, then naturally the largest should be number 2. And we may say, hey, let's check if number 3 is greater than number 1, then we would like instead the number 3 to become the largest, and we will put a semicolon after our if line to say if number 3 instead is larger than number 1, then largest will become number 3. After the lines execute, we will have the largest value calculated from these lines that I have highlighted below. This is how you may calculate the largest. We shall follow the same logic to calculate the lowest. We may say, let's try to copy these lines because the logic is so similar. We may say edit, copy, and we may put some white space and say edit and paste. To just save some time, we will say following lines will find out the smallest among the 3 numbers. And instead of largest, we may say smallest is number 1. If number 2 happens to be less than number 1, then the smallest will be taken over by the number 2. If the number 3 happens to be less than number 1, then the smallest will take over the place for the number 1. I hope this is helping out in a sense to see that we are comparing the first. Here we have the number largest is given the number 1, And we may say, hey, if number 2 you are more than number 1, then I'm going to make largest the number 2. Instead of this, we can also say that, hey, let's try to compare everything with the current state of largest. So we may say if number 2 you are larger than the largest, then I'm going to make largest number 2. Number 3, I need to compare you with number 1 and number 2 simultaneously. So I'm going to say if number 3 you are larger than the largest, then largest will become you. Which is to say, rather than comparing with one of the 3, we are comparing with the 2 of the 3. Here as well, we are finding the smallest. So let's imagine for a second that the number 1 is the smallest. But instead of saying number 1 explicitly, we may say if number 2 is smaller than smallest, then the smallest of the number 1, 2, and 3 will be number 2. Similarly, in here, rather than saying number 3, are you smaller than the number 1? We may say, are you smaller than the smallest variable value? If that is the case, we will make the smallest variable with a value equal to number 3. This is probably going to be the most new part for you guys, but I hope you can really understand why I changed those numbers to smallest and the largest variable. Let us find the sum, product, and average of the 3 numbers. Now the sum, which is the variable sum, is nothing but number 1 plus number 2 plus number 3, which is nothing different. Product is nothing but number 1 multiplied, which is the star symbol, number 2. And mind you, I'm putting spaces between these symbols to help you read the code, but this is not at all necessary. We are just putting it to make it easy for you guys, the developers and the students who are watching this video, to get benefited by this. And the average is nothing but sum forward slash, which is the divide, and we have the largest, smallest, sum, product, and average. All we need to do is let us print the values for user to see. And mind you, we are writing all this information between the public static void main, and we have a little bit of code built up, but it's all logical with some white spaces to help it clear for you guys. To display the information, we are going to use system.out.print with the letter F to say format. We are printing in a particular format. To start in a new line, certainly we'll enclose everything in double quotation marks and end in a semicolon. But to start everything afresh in a new line, we will use %n, which is to say, hey, before printing, move the mouse in the new line. We'll say for the numbers, space, %d is to display a number as an integer or a decimal integer. So we will say for the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Where are these 3 numbers? Here. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. Display a string which will say for the number, and substitute %d with number 1 right over here, this with the second number, and this with the third number. We would like these 3 numbers to show up, and we would also like to have another empty line end up. So we would like an empty line before everything is written, an empty line before everything is written, by putting these %n symbols. After we display that, hey, for the numbers 10, 15, and 17, or whatever 3 numbers user has typed, we would like to display the output. So let us display system.out.printf in quotation marks. Largest is colon symbol %d %n. And what is going to be substituted by %d? The variable by the name largest. This will print largest as the largest is semicolon and the literal number. We will say system.out.printf smallest is %d %n. Why are we putting %n? Because we would like to have a white space show up after printing the variable value. White space or an enter. The mouse should move to the next line. Let's write system.out.printf sum is %d %n. And what to substitute the %d with? A variable by the name sum, and move the mouse to the next line. System.out.printf product is %d %n. And what is the %d? A variable by literal name product. Finally, we would like to display the average, and we shall say system.out.printf average is colon symbol %d %n. We really don't need %n because this is the last one, but to keep the pattern consistent for you guys, I may use it and end the line with the semicolon. This is the line we have written, somewhere around 50 lines or maybe 40 lines, but we have the variable. We imported a package by the name scanner or a class by the name scanner, java.util.scanner. Within the public static void main, we have declared 3 variables we are asking the user to fill in and 5 variables that system generates. We display system.out.print and we ask the user to fill in the number, then the second number and the third number. We have a small algorithm to calculate the largest, a small algorithm to calculate the smallest of the 3 numbers, and then the sum, product and average. We are utilizing the %d and we're using printf function to say, hey, whenever you're displaying the largest or the smallest or the sum or the product or the average, please display them as integers, because that is what I would like by saying %d. We shall run our code by using run option and choosing the run, which is number 1 in that menu. In the bottom, we are seeing that enter number 1, we may say 21, enter. We are asked to fill in the second number, we may say 3, and the third one, we may say 1. For the numbers 21, 3 and 1, the largest is 21, smallest is 1, sum is 25, product is 63, and average is 8. This is it, guys. When you need to submit, you may right click to make sure the file location, which is shown right here under the location, grab that .java file and upload it. For this assignment, which is pending for this week, you may have to submit it by clicking on the submit assignment button. It will pull up a small area in the bottom and you may browse for the file that you have created and upload the file as you see suitable. Wherever it is located, you may go ahead and browse for that file, save it or upload it, and eventually press the submit assignment button. If this video left out anything that you want me to cover, please share your thoughts. I'm going to post this video under the current week module as an assignment aid so that everybody can see it and benefit from it. Thank you. Have a good day, guys. I hope this video is useful to you and makes you complete the assignment quickly.